Thank you, Lisa. And with me are the General Manager, Mr. Cato, and our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Kissel. We're here because the world financial crisis, which obviously has gripped the attention of the leaders of our federal government, we're now experiencing aftershocks that threaten many entities throughout the economy that may not have been initially focused on, among those public agencies, and in particular public transportation agencies throughout the country, from Boston to LA, from Miami to Seattle, could be affected by one aspect of this crisis that has received relatively little attention and was not the subject of the rescue plan that the Congress adopted last month. Specifically, we have a problem that is an immediate crisis for this agency, which threatens to engulf others around the country, and WMATA happens to be at the front edge of this particular problem and is facing a deadline next week. We have been actively working on Capitol Hill and have had strong support from the members of the congressional delegation here in the National Capital Region. The Speaker's office has also weighed in. But this is a situation in which we need action by the Treasury specifically if we are to avert a crisis that, again, we face as of next Wednesday. We have submitted a letter to Secretary Paulson at the Treasury and asked for him to act as he has been requested to do by the congressional delegation, as I said, in a way that will avert the immediate crisis at no cost or risk to the federal government. Again, we can answer questions on the specifics, but in the most basic terms, we are affected by the impact to a company that certainly has been much in the news, AIG. And because the status of AIG was affected, the status of a number of financial instruments, technically leasebacks, but basically a way that Metro in years past financed much of what we did, including completing the 103-mile system and purchasing rail cars that we're riding on today, were accomplished through means of this mechanism in which AIG was the insurer, and the downgrading of their status has led a number of banks, in particular a Belgian bank, to seek immediate payment, even though they are receiving payments on time, and the payment flow is not in any way threatened. But there is a technical provision that allows them to do this unless the Treasury intervenes now. And if they do not, then we have a real difficult situation. If we were forced to pay this on this obviously short notice, we would not be able to avoid ultimate impacts to how we provide our services to the people of this region, a large portion of whom, of course, are the employees of the United States government going to their jobs every day. We run the risk of having to put off much-needed repairs to elevators, escalators, and crumbling station platforms. We may not have the money we need to replace old rail cars and buses, and we could begin to fall into a state of disrepair. This is, of course, the very thing we're trying to stave off by finding new ways to finance what we do here and to meet the growing capital needs of this growing region. And so this could really not come at a worse time. The federal government in recent years has not provided a whole lot of money for the capital needs of public transportation agencies, and in the past decade, mostly in the late 90s and the early part of this decade, while they didn't have a lot of funds to give, they encouraged the use of this particular mechanism for financing by which agencies like ours could borrow money. And we did so, and of course we're paying them back. But now, because of this crisis, we run the risk of really putting in jeopardy the very improvements that our region needs so badly, and which would have effects, as I say, not only for the localities here, and this is, after all, the seat of the national government, but ultimately also around the country, because many other agencies, as I mentioned, in large cities all around the country, were dependent on the same type of transactions. So we are asking the Treasury to act immediately so that we can avert this crisis and go on about our business. If they fail to do so, then obviously the consequences could be very significant, not only here, but ultimately all across the country.
I'm hoping that the Treasury takes an action. If they fail to do so, next step, of course, is the court system. I think we have a very compelling argument that we have done everything we were supposed to do. We paid our bills, we lived up to the agreement, and this is just a move in order to attempt to get funds that the bank would not have gotten out of the transaction. And that would impact the riders in this region. If the worst case happens and the judge does not provide some relief, then we have a problem. We have a major problem that we have to find dollars that we have set aside for the capital programs of this agency to keep our system operating. And if there is a demand on that, at some point, that's going to have to be paid.